Hey everyone, it's Phil and welcome to another episode of Earth, Nails, and Tales, where it's our goal to grow the gardener in you. And today we're going to be giving you all of the information that you need in order to grow loofah sponges successfully. Loofah is a subtropical to tropical plant that loves those long summer days, and it can grow some serious vines that can stretch outwards of 40 feet in every direction. And because of this, you're going to have to find a prime location that gets plenty of sunlight and can sustain those trailing vines. You can let them sprawl along the ground, but as you can see, the plant really prefers a nice, opportune trellis. And I've got a fence behind me for our chicken run, and you can just see how far that vine is traveling from its source of origin, which is right by our shed. And last year we used another very popular trellis, it seems in this day and age, is the cattle panel trellis. And this will also provide you, as the gardener, some refuge in those hot summer days. We've also got an arbor on the other side of our shed that I really enjoy. It creates a nice arch in 4 different directions, and the loofah just completely takes it over. So as you can see, there are a lot of options and they all do a perfect job. Not only do these trellises conserve space in your garden because it allows you to grow upwards rather than the vines taking over all of that square footage in your garden, it allows the plant to have better access to sunlight, which it needs a lot of since it's growing some pretty big fruit that we're gonna let mature and turn into sponges. You should really give your loofah plants as much sunlight as they can absorb because they want it all. So make sure you put it in a spot where it's getting full sunlight or very, very minor shade throughout the day if you wanna grow those big loofah sponges. But let's get into growing. Your loofah is going to be a long season crop, and it's going to take anywhere from 100 to 180 days in order to grow those loofah sponges. So what you need to do is ensure that you have at least 200 frost-free days in your growing season to ensure that you have enough time in order to actually grow these loofah. And to get off to a good start in your season, I would recommend planting your loofah seeds indoors about 4 weeks before you intend to transplant them outside, or around the time of your historical last frost date. This will ensure that your seedlings are strong and established when you transplant them into the garden. And these epic 6-cell and, for loofah, 4-cell trays are a fantastic option in order to grow strong transplants that have an amazing root system that are going to go through transplant shock so much easier out in the garden. And with your seed cell trays, make sure you're using a good quality potting mix, something with a mixture of coconut coir or peat moss, compost, vermiculite, perlite, with a little bit of added amendments of fertilizer or azomite for micronutrients. And after about 2 weeks of growth, you're gonna want to go back and give them about 1/4 to 1/2 dose of your favorite liquid fertilizer. This will help them establish and grow those nice solid roots before you transplant them out into the garden. After these 4 weeks, you're gonna have some seriously strong plants that are just waiting to be planted out in the garden. But during this time, while you're waiting, you need to make sure that you're getting your soil prepped. And you need to provide your loofah with a soil that's high in organic matter and amended with a good quality, granular, and long-lasting fertilizer, as well as azomite and compost for those macro and micronutrients. I personally love creating my own soil, and for all of my vegetables, I like to use Mel's Mix, which is just an equal parts mixture of peat moss, or you can use coconut coir, compost, and perlite. This creates a mixture that is light and fluffy, has great structure, and can absorb moisture to keep the soil moist, but not soggy. Once you have your growing medium established for your plants, you're going to want to top dress your growing area with a 14-14-14 granular fertilizer. This is going to break down over time and supply a continuous source of nutrition to your loofah as it grows those long vines and those big fruit. And on top of that, you want to provide 2-inch layer of compost because this is going to break down over time. That's going to provide more organic matter, good structure for the soil, as well as beneficial bacteria. So you want to make sure that you're taking the time in order to prep the soil, because that is what's going to make your crop successful later on, 5 months down the season. When you're transplanting your seedlings, the ideal day is one with overcast or where you're going to get a light rain, because this is going to help minimize the amount of transplant shock that your loofah undergoes. When you're transplanting, the idea is to kick off that root system, get that root system established as soon as possible, because a strong root system is going to lead to a healthy plant system. So once you got your plant in the ground, you're going to water it in really well. That's going to allow your roots to spread out into their new environment. And another thing that you're going to want to do is grab that liquid fertilizer again, and this time give your plant a full dose. This will help it establish, and then your loofah isn't going to really need that much more until about the middle of the season. After a few months, and once you see those beautiful yellow flowers start to form and those pollinators buzzing around, you'll know it's time to give your plant another dose of 14-14-14 fertilizer. This is going to give the plant exactly what it needs to finish growing and grow those large fruit before you pick your loofah for harvest. Now, since we've talked about providing loofah with the right nutrition, another thing that's extremely important is water. Your loofah is used to living in a moist environment or a humid environment, so you're going to need to provide it with enough water throughout the growing season to establish those large vines and those large fruit. But what you want to provide your loofah with is about 5 gallons of water per plant every single week. Now, I know that this is a standard and you might have to give your loofah some more water depending on where you live. And one way you can monitor your plants to see if they need a little bit of water is watching them at the end of the day as that sun is setting. If you see that your plants are still wilted after you watered them maybe a day or two ago, if they're still wilted at night, that means your plants are lacking the proper water. So wait till the next morning so your plant can recover over the night, and early in the morning come out, maybe give it an additional gallon or 2 and see if it perks up. And you should see them perk up later that night, and that's how you would know that you've adequately watered your loofah. Now let's talk a little bit about the loofah life cycle. And the first thing that you're going to start to see after these giant leaves and vines start growing is these beautiful yellow flowers. And this is the start of your immature fruit. And we've got one right here. As they start to grow to this size, or maybe even a little bit bigger, like the size of a cucumber, you can harvest them in order to eat. Yes, they're edible as well, which is something pretty cool about loofah. You can chop them up, put them in your stir-fry dishes, and they're actually pretty delicious. As they start to grow, or they're nearing around that 4-month mark, you're gonna start to see some giant loofah like this one right here. And when your goal is to harvest your loofah for loofah sponges, once they get to this point, you're going to want to start checking on them more often, because they're going to start to yellow and then eventually start to brown like this one right here. The best time to harvest them is when they're mostly brown but still a little bit yellow, and they have the consistency of a paper bag on the outside. When they still have a little bit of moisture to them on their skin, they're going to be significantly easier to peel. If you let your loofahs stay on the vine a little bit too long, they may actually start rotting, which could cause some discoloration of the sponges, and you might just have to work a little bit harder to get those stains off. So it's best to just stay on top of them and go outside every couple days or so and check on your loofah sponges. Now let's say that you're in an area where you're really pushing the limits of your season and there's a potential of frost coming that could kill off your loofah. Well, I'm going to tell you that you could still harvest loofah sponges from a green loofah like this one. You want to make sure that it's relatively large, and when you squeeze it, it's very firm. This is going to indicate that there's most likely a loofah sponge that has formed inside of the skin. However, since it has not dried yet, there's going to be a lot more moisture and the skin is going to be a lot tougher to get through. But we've got a hack. What you can do is harvest them and soak them in water overnight. This is going to loosen some things up on the inside. Once you've done that, you could take your loofah and then you're going to stomp on it and roll it underneath your foot. That's going to break the connections between the loofah and the skin. And then once you make a slit down that skin, that green peel is gonna come right off. So we've got one of our brown loofah sponges. You can see how large just this thing is. And I can hear those seeds on the inside. So let's see if we can get this skin off. Get a nice peel going on here. Honestly, that sound is just so satisfying. This one's pretty big. Look at that. That's gorgeous. So you've got a little discoloration here and there on that one. And if you look in here, you could see those seeds. This is a really nice loofah, and I'm probably gonna be saving the seeds of this one in order to grow next season, just because of the size alone. And after you have harvested and peeled your loofah, the very last thing that you want to do before you start using them as sponges is let them cure in the sun. And what you're going to do is just lay them out on a nice even surface in a single layer for about 7 to 10 days. And every other day or so, just come outside and roll them so that way all parts of the loofah are being exposed to that sunlight. And that's going to make sure all of the moisture is out of your loofah, it's completely dry, and it's also going to make it a lot easier to harvest those seeds. Once they're dry, all you're going to do is turn your loofah over and shake out, to the best of your ability, all of these fantastic seeds. And you can save every single one of these to grow next season. So if you weren't able to grow loofah this season, or you're looking forward to growing it next season, well, we do sell our homegrown loofah seeds on our Etsy page. So make sure you head over there, purchase some seeds, and grow your own loofah next season. Well, that's going to sum things up for today's video, and I hope you enjoyed this loofah growing guide, and take all this information that you learned, apply it to your loofah growing, and grow some amazing loofah sponges for yourself. And for those of you that have made it this far, I want to extend an opportunity for you. If you do go over to our Etsy account and purchase our loofah seeds, just send me a message and I will make sure that I send you an extra set of seeds, because I really appreciate all of you that have stayed this far and really supported our content in our channel. It means so much, because we do really make all of these videos to help and support all of you to become better gardeners. So this is my way of saying thank you. And again, my name is Phil from Earth, Nails, and Tales. We'll see you next time.